She surprised her cheating husband with divorce papers at his secret boys' trip. And the look on his face when she walked into that lodge was something he would never forget. For 7 years, Daniel was the husband everyone envied. A respected surgeon, the man who paid for the house, the one who kissed his wife Maya every morning and called her his whole world. Maya was the loyal wife who ironed his shirts, raised their 2 kids, and never once questioned his yearly boys' trip to the mountains. But this year, everything about that trip felt wrong. He packed the cologne she gave him for their anniversary, the one he saved for special occasions. He zipped a bag he wouldn't let her touch. And there wasn't a single hiking boot in the car. Maya told herself she was being paranoid. But the morning after her cheating husband left for his secret boys' trip, a photo flashed across the family tablet. Champagne, a caption, and Daniel, smiling, standing beside people who were never the boys at all. Most wives would have cried. Most wives would have called him screaming. But Maya didn't cry, and she didn't scream. She opened her laptop instead, and what she found in those bank statements turned her grief into something colder, something sharper. Let me take you back 3 days, to the morning it all began to unravel. It was a Thursday. The house still smelled of the jollof rice Maya had cooked the night before, that deep smoky scent that clung to the curtains and made the whole home feel warm. Sunlight poured through the tall windows of their beautiful Lekki home, the kind of home people slowed their cars to look at. Marble floors, big glass doors, a garden the neighbors whispered about. Daniel came down the stairs humming. He was dressed too well for a trip to the mountains. A crisp shirt, fresh haircut, and that smell, that sharp, expensive cologne Maya had given him 2 anniversaries ago. She looked up from the ironing board, the iron hissing steam into the air. "You're wearing the cologne," she said, smiling. "The one you save for special occasions." Daniel froze for half a second. Just half. Then he laughed. "A man can smell nice for his friends, can't he?" Maya laughed too. But something small and quiet inside her chest turned over. She didn't know why. She went back to ironing his shirt, pressing it slow and careful, the way she always did. The children, Zara and little Toby, were eating cereal at the counter, arguing about cartoons. Everything looked normal. Everything felt normal. But Maya's eyes kept drifting to the bag by the door. It was zipped tight, and when she had reached to move it earlier that morning, Daniel had crossed the room fast, too fast, and picked it up himself. "I've got it," he'd said. His voice was light, but his hand had gripped that bag like it held something alive. Maya told herself she was being silly. 7 years of marriage, 2 children, a man who kissed her forehead every single morning and called her his whole world. What kind of wife lets her mind run wild over a zipped bag? "Daddy, are you coming back for my school play?" Zara asked, her little voice hopeful. Daniel knelt down and cupped her cheek. "I wouldn't miss it for anything in the world, princess." And Maya believed him. Because that was the thing about Daniel. He was so easy to believe. He kissed the children. He kissed Maya. His lips brushed her forehead, soft and familiar. And for a moment, all her worry melted. "Where exactly are you staying this year?" she asked as he lifted the bag. He paused at the door. "Same place. The lodge. You know the boys. Send me the address, in case of emergency." Something flickered across his face. "Just a shadow. The network up there is terrible. Babe, I'll call you when I can." And then he was gone. The gate slid shut. His car pulled away. Maya stood in the doorway, holding a warm, freshly ironed shirt he had left behind. She pressed it to her nose and breathed in. It smelled like him, like home. And she had no idea that in less than 24 hours, that same smell would make her sick. The day passed the way ordinary days do. School runs, homework, a phone call from her mother. Maya cooked, cleaned, laughed with her children, and told herself the strange feeling in her chest was nothing but a tired mind. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the air conditioner and the soft breathing of her son, who had crawled into her bed. Daniel hadn't called. Not one message. She checked her phone again. Nothing. "He said the network is bad," she whispered to herself. He said, but somewhere deep inside, in a place she didn't want to look, a small voice was already asking questions she was afraid to answer. Morning came gray and quiet. Maya was in the kitchen making breakfast when it happened. The family tablet was propped up on the counter, playing soft music the way it always did in the mornings. The children loved it. Daniel had set it up so all their devices were connected. Photos, messages, everything flowing between them, like one big happy family. He had forgotten what that meant. The music stopped, a little chime rang out, and a photo bloomed across the screen, bright and sudden, like a slap. Maya's hand went still over the frying pan. She stared at the tablet. It was Daniel. He was standing on a beach, not a mountain. Behind him, palm trees swayed against a turquoise sky. Tables draped in white, bottles of champagne glowing gold in the sun. And Daniel was smiling that big, easy smile she knew so well, a champagne flute raised in his hand. But he wasn't alone. Standing pressed against his side was a woman. Young, beautiful, her arm wrapped around his waist like it belonged there. Like it had been there many times before, and below the photo, a caption. 3 words that turned Maya's blood to ice. Our anniversary trip. The pan hissed. Oil popped. But Maya didn't move. She just stood there, staring at the screen, the whole world going silent around her. The boys' trip. The lodge in the mountains. 7 years. It was all a lie. Her legs felt strange, like they weren't hers. She reached out and gripped the edge of the counter to steady herself. In the other room, her children laughed at their cartoons, safe and innocent, not knowing that their whole world had just cracked down the middle. Maya looked down at the shirt she'd ironed for him yesterday, still folded neatly on the chair. That smell of his cologne rose up at her, and this time, it didn't smell like home. It smelled like betrayal. Most wives would have collapsed right there on the kitchen floor. Most wives would have called him, screaming, crying, begging for it not to be true. Maya's hand even hovered over her phone, her thumb trembling above his name. But she stopped, because something was happening inside her, something she had never felt before. The tears that should have come, didn't. The scream that clawed at her throat, she swallowed it down, and in its place, a strange, terrible calm settled over her heart like cold water. She turned off the stove. She walked to the sink and washed her hands slowly, watching the water run over her fingers. And then she did something that surprised even her. She smiled. Not a happy smile. A quiet, dangerous one. The smile of a woman who has just realized she has been treated like a fool, and has decided, in that very moment, that she will never be one again. Okay, Daniel, she whispered to the empty kitchen. Okay. She fed her children. She dropped them at school. She kissed their foreheads and told them Mummy loved them, and she watched them run through the school gates without a single crack in her voice. Then she drove home, walked into Daniel's study, and opened his laptop. Her hands were steady now, steadier than they had ever been. She knew his password. Of course she did. It was Zara's birthday, the daughter who was waiting for him to come to her school play. The screen came to life, and Maya began to dig. She wasn't even sure what she was looking for at first. She just knew that a man who could hide a woman for years could hide other things too. So she opened his email, his messages, his bank statements, and what she found there made the beach photo look like nothing at all. Line after line, transaction after transaction. Money, their money, the money they were supposed to be saving for the children's education, for their future, flowing out of their account in amounts that made her stomach twist. A luxury apartment, rent paid every single month for 2 years. Jewelry, diamond earrings, a gold bracelet she had never seen, never worn. Flights, hotels, dinners at restaurants she had never been to. And then, buried deep in the folders, a name, repeated over and over. Attached to the apartment, attached to a credit card in Daniel's name. The same face from the beach. Maya sat back in the chair, her heart pounding, her breath shallow. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't a mistake made on one weekend away. This was a second life. A whole hidden world he had built with their money, behind her back, while she ironed his shirts and raised his children and believed every soft word that fell from his lips. 7 years. She scrolled further, deeper, and that was when she found the thing that changed everything. The one document that made her cold fury turn to something with a plan. But before I tell you what that document was, you need to understand what kind of woman Maya was becoming. Because the old Maya, the one who trusted, the one who believed, the one who pressed his shirts with love, she was gone. She had died somewhere between that beach photo and that bank statement. And the woman who rose up in her place was something Daniel had never met, something he had never imagined, something he would soon wish he had never awakened. Maya reached for her phone, Her fingers moved with purpose now. She didn't call Daniel. She didn't cry to her sister. She did something else entirely. She opened a browser. She searched the name of a lodge. Not the mountain lodge Daniel had lied about, but the real place. The beach resort in the photo. She found it in seconds. Palm trees. White tables. The exact bar where he had raised his glass. And then, calm as still water, she began to book a room. Her thumb hovered over the confirm button. On the screen, the price glowed. The dates. The location. 3 states away, on the far coast, where her husband thought no one could ever find him. Downstairs, the front door of the fine house creaked in the wind. The house he had paid for. The house full of lies. Maya took a deep breath, and she pressed confirm. The room was booked. Now all she needed was one more thing. One folder. One set of papers that would end the life Daniel thought he could keep hidden forever. She stood up from his desk, walked past the family photos smiling at her from the wall, and picked up her car keys. She had a lawyer to see. And what that lawyer would help her prepare, and what Maya would carry into that sunlit resort 3 days later, was the very thing Daniel never, ever saw coming. The lawyer's office was cold and quiet, all glass and straight lines, the kind of place where secrets came to die. Maya sat across from a woman named Barrister Adayeze, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, with gray streaks in her hair, and a stack of files that had seen 100 broken marriages. Maya slid her phone across the polished desk. On the screen were the photos, the bank statements, the apartment, the name. Adayeze looked at them for a long time. She didn't gasp. She didn't shake her head. Women like her had stopped being shocked years ago. Finally she looked up. "You have more than enough," she said simply. "The hidden apartment alone is enough. The diverted funds make it worse for him. Much worse." Maya nodded slowly. "So I can leave him with nothing." Adayeze studied her. "You can protect yourself and your children. You can make sure he pays for every naira he stole. But I have to ask you something, Maya." She leaned forward. "This anger you're carrying, it's fresh, it's hot. In my experience, hot anger makes people do foolish things. Are you sure you want to do this your way?" Maya thought about the beach photo, the champagne, the caption, "Our anniversary trip." She thought about the cologne she had wrapped so carefully 2 years ago, believing it would be worn on nights with her. "I'm not going to do anything foolish," Maya said quietly. "I'm going to be very, very calm. That's the part that will hurt him most." Something in Adaze's face softened. She had seen 1,000 women cry in that chair. She had rarely seen one this still. "All right," the lawyer said. "Then let's make this airtight." For the next 2 days, Maya lived 2 lives, just like her husband had. By day, she was mummy. She made breakfast and packed lunches and clapped at Toby's football practice and helped Zara rehearse the lines for her school play. She smiled. She laughed. She kissed her children goodnight and lay in the dark listening to them breathe. But when the house went quiet, the other Maya came out. She gathered documents. She made copies. She saved everything to a drive and hid it somewhere Daniel would never think to look. She spoke to Adayeze on the phone in whispers. She traced every single transaction until the whole ugly picture was clear enough for a child to understand. And Daniel? He called twice. The first time, his voice was warm and lazy. "Hey babe, the network's finally working. Missing you and the kids. The mountains are beautiful this year." Maya closed her eyes. She could hear it now, the sound of waves behind his voice. Faint but there. The sound he thought she couldn't hear. Not mountains. Ocean. "We miss you too," she said sweetly. "Enjoy your trip. You deserve it." She heard him pause, just slightly, surprised at how gentle she sounded. "You're the best. You know that? I'm a lucky man." "Yes," Maya whispered after she hung up. "You really thought you were." The second call came the next night. This time Maya let it ring out. She wanted him relaxed, comfortable. She wanted him to believe, right up until the very last second, that everything at home was exactly as he'd left it. A loyal wife ironing his shirts, waiting patiently for her man to come home from the boys. Because the more relaxed he was, the harder the fall. On the morning of the 3rd day, Maya woke before the sun. She stood in front of her mirror in the gray light and looked at herself for a long time. The woman staring back was not the one who had cried into pillows over the years, wondering why her husband seemed so far away. This woman's eyes were clear. Her jaw was set. Her heart, once so soft, had learned to be steel when it needed to be. She dressed carefully, not to impress anyone, but to remind herself who she was, a beautiful, powerful, intelligent woman who had built a home, raised 2 children, and given 7 years of her life to a man who threw it away for champagne on a beach. She chose a crisp white blouse, elegant trousers, her mother's gold earrings, and she pulled her hair back so nothing could hide her face when she walked into that lodge and looked her husband in the eye. Her sister, Ngozi, came to watch the children. She stood in the doorway, worried, gripping Maya's arm. "Sister, please," Ngozi begged. "Let the lawyer handle it. Send him the papers by courier." "Why do you have to go all the way there yourself? Why do you have to see it with your own eyes?" Maya took her sister's hands. "Because for 7 years, I saw only what he wanted me to see," she said. "This time, I want to see the truth, and I want him to see me." She picked up the folder from the table. Inside were the divorce papers, freshly printed, still smelling of the machine. Beside them, tucked in a second sleeve, were copies of everything else: the statements, the apartment lease, the photos, the whole hidden life, laid bare in black and white. She held that folder against her chest like a shield. "Take care of my babies," she told her sister. "Tell them Mummy will be back tomorrow. And tell them," her voice caught, just for a moment, the only crack all morning, "tell them that Mummy loves them more than anything in this whole world." Then she walked out to her car, set the folder on the passenger seat, and began to drive. The road to the coast was long. For hours, the city fell away behind her, and the land opened up. Green fields, small towns, roadside markets, where women sold roasted corn and oranges stacked in bright orange pyramids. Maya drove with the windows down, the warm wind rushing over her face, the radio off. She needed the silence. She needed to think. And as she drove, the memories came, whether she wanted them or not. Daniel on their wedding day, so handsome he made her breath catch, whispering in her ear that he would love her until the stars fell from the sky. Daniel holding newborn Zara, tears streaming down his face, calling her a miracle. Daniel bringing home Suya at midnight because she was pregnant and craving it. Daniel, Daniel, Daniel. Had any of it been real? That was the question that hollowed her out as the miles passed. Not the money, not even the woman, but the terrible, gnawing wonder. Had she loved a man who never truly existed? Had she given her whole heart to a mask? A tear slipped down her cheek. She let it fall. Just one. Then she wiped it away and gripped the wheel tighter. "No," she said aloud to the empty car. "You don't get any more of my tears, Daniel. You've had enough." The sun was sinking low and gold when she finally saw it. The ocean. It stretched out endless and shining, the exact turquoise from the photo. And there along the shore stood the resort. White buildings glowing in the evening light, palm trees swaying, the faint sound of music and laughter drifting across the sand. It was beautiful, sickeningly beautiful. Her husband had chosen a paradise to betray her in. Maya parked. She sat in the car for a moment, both hands on the wheel, her heart hammering against her ribs. This was it. Behind those glowing walls was Daniel, and the woman, and the life he thought was a secret. She could still turn around. She could still let the lawyers do it quietly, from a distance, the safe way. But then she looked down at the folder on the seat beside her, and she thought of her children waiting at home, and she thought of the woman she had been for 7 years. Small, trusting, easy to fool. That woman was gone. Maya picked up the folder. She stepped out of the car, and she walked toward the light. The lobby smelled of salt and flowers, of sunscreen and expensive perfume. A young man in a smart uniform smiled at her from behind the desk. "Good evening, madam. Checking in?" "I have a reservation," Maya said, her voice steady. She gave her name. He tapped at his computer and handed her a key card, still smiling. "Are you here to surprise someone?" he asked warmly, nodding at the folder pressed to her chest. "We get a lot of romantic surprises here." Maya looked at him, and for the first time all day, she smiled a real smile, small, sad, and razor-sharp. "Yes," she said softly. "A very big surprise." She didn't go to her room. She followed the sound, music, laughter, the clink of glasses. It drew her through the lobby, past the pool, out toward the beach bar, where the party lights glowed against the darkening sky. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. Her hands were cold, but her steps never slowed. And then she saw them. There, At the edge of the bar, framed against the sea, stood Daniel. He was even more relaxed than she'd imagined, a drink in his hand. His shirt open at the collar, laughing at something, his head thrown back, his whole body loose and happy in a way she hadn't seen at home in years. He looked like a man without a care in the world. Beside him stood the woman from the photo, closer now, real now, her hand resting on his arm, her body leaning into his, comfortable and possessive, the way only a woman who has spent years with a man can lean. And there was a third person, another man, in a bright shirt, holding a cocktail, part of their little laughing group, a friend, a witness to the whole thing. Someone who had known, all this time, and said nothing. Maya stood in the shadows, just beyond the lights, watching them. This was the moment. 7 years of marriage, 2 children, a stolen fortune, a lifetime of lies, all leading to this one point on a beach at the edge of the world. She could feel her old self trembling, begging her to run, to cry, to scream. But the new Maya took a slow breath and let the calm wash over her one final time. She thought of Zara's school play, the one Daniel had promised he wouldn't miss. She thought of the cologne, saved for special occasions. And she stepped into the light. At first, no one noticed her. She walked toward them slowly, her heels sinking softly into the sand, the folder held in front of her. The music played on, the waves rolled in. Then the woman saw her. Her smile froze, her eyes went wide. She said something, tugging at Daniel's arm. And Daniel turned. For a moment, one long, frozen moment, his face didn't understand. His brain refused to accept what his eyes were seeing. His wife. Here, 1,000 miles from home, on the very beach he had sworn was a mountain lodge. The drink slipped in his hand. His mouth fell open. The color drained from his face like water from a broken cup. Maya? He choked out. What are you doing here? The whole group had gone silent now. The other man stared. The woman took a small, frightened step back. The music seemed to fade into nothing, and it was as if the entire beach was holding its breath. Maya looked at her husband. This stranger she had loved. This liar she had trusted. This man who had raised a glass of champagne to another woman and called it their anniversary. And she smiled. Calm, steady, unbreakable. I came to bring you something, she said. Her voice didn't shake. It rang out clear over the waves. You forgot it at home. Daniel's eyes dropped to the folder in her hands, and Maya could see the fear crawl up his face as he began to understand. She held it out toward him, steady as a stone. Go on, she said softly. Open it. For a moment, nobody moved. The folder hung in the air between them, and Daniel stared at it like it was a snake about to strike. His hand trembled. The champagne glass slipped from his fingers and shattered on the wooden deck, but he didn't even flinch. His eyes were locked on that folder, and on his wife's calm, unshakable face. Maya, he said, forcing a laugh that came out thin and broken. Babe, this isn't what it looks like. Let me explain. These are just work colleagues. We're here for a conference. Maya didn't move. She didn't blink. She just kept holding out the folder, steady as the tide. A conference, she repeated softly. Yes, a medical conference. I swear. With champagne, and your arm around her waist? Maya tilted her head, almost gently, the way you might question a child who has been caught with chocolate on his face. Is she a doctor too, Daniel? The woman beside him went pale. She let go of his arm as if it had burned her, and took another step back. The third man, the friend in the bright shirt, suddenly found something very interesting to look at in his drink. Maya, please, Daniel whispered. Sweat was gathering on his forehead now, glistening in the party lights. Not here, not like this. Let's go somewhere private and talk. No. The word landed like a stone dropped into still water. For 7 years, you decided everything in private, Maya said, her voice rising just enough to carry. Where our money went. Where you really spent your weekends. Who you loved, and who you lied to. You made all your choices in the dark, Daniel. So tonight, we do this in the light. And with that, she stepped forward and pressed the folder into his shaking hands. He took it, because his body didn't know what else to do. His fingers fumbled with the flap. And as he opened it, Maya watched the truth crash over him wave by wave. The first page was the divorce petition. His eyes scanned it, and his jaw tightened. But it was the pages behind it that broke him. The bank statements, highlighted in bright yellow, every stolen naira circled and labeled. The lease to the luxury apartment, with his signature at the bottom and the other woman's name beside it. The receipts for the jewelry, the flights, the dinners. 2 years of a hidden life, printed out and stapled together. Undeniable, unhideable, laid bare on a beach for anyone to see. His face went from red to white to something with no color at all. How? He breathed. How did you? You gave our daughter's birthday as your password, Maya said quietly. The same daughter whose school play you promised you wouldn't miss. The play that's tomorrow, Daniel. While you were here, pouring champagne. Something in the way she said it, so calm, so full of a grief too deep for tears, made even the strangers at the bar look away in shame. The other woman finally spoke, her voice shaking. Daniel, you told me you were separated. You told me she left you. She looked at Maya, and there was real fear in her eyes now. And something else too. The dawning horror of a woman realizing she had been lied to just as badly. Is that not true? Maya turned to her. And here was the moment everyone expected, the screaming, the slap, the scene. But Maya's voice, when it came, was almost kind. 2 children, Maya said. A home. 7 years of marriage. He kissed me goodbye 3 days ago and told me he was going to the mountains with the boys. She looked the young woman up and down, not with hatred, but with a strange, sad pity. He lied to you too. Whatever he stole from me, he stole a piece of your life as well. You should know that. The young woman's hand flew to her mouth. Tears sprang to her eyes. And without another word, she turned and fled down the beach, disappearing into the dark, leaving Daniel standing alone in the wreckage of the life he had built on lies. Now it was just the 2 of them, husband and wife, and the roaring silence of everything that could never be taken back. Maya, please. Daniel dropped to his knees in the sand. The proud surgeon, the envied man, the one who paid for everything, on his knees. I made a mistake. A terrible, stupid mistake. And I'll fix it. I'll give it all back. I'll change. I swear on our children's lives. I'll change. Just don't do this. Don't break our family. And this was the moment Maya had wondered about. All those long miles on the road. She had imagined he might cry. She had imagined he might beg. And she had wondered whether, when the moment came, some old buried part of her heart might still soften. Whether 7 years and 2 children and 1,000 tender memories might still have some pull. She looked down at him, kneeling in the sand, his face streaked with tears, his hands reaching for the hem of her blouse. And she felt nothing, not hatred, not love, just a great, quiet stillness, like the calm sea after a terrible storm has finally passed. You didn't break our family tonight, Daniel, she said gently. You broke it a long time ago, in a rented apartment, on a beach like this one. Every time you looked at me and lied. I'm not breaking anything. I'm just finally seeing what was already broken. She knelt down slowly, so she was level with him, and for a moment, her voice dropped to almost a whisper, meant only for him. You called me your whole world, she said. But a man doesn't lie to his whole world. A man doesn't steal from his whole world. You never lost me tonight, Daniel. You lost me piece by piece, every single day, for years, and you were too busy admiring yourself to even notice I was gone. She stood up. She brushed the sand from her knees, and she looked down at him one last time. The papers are signed by my lawyer already. All you have to do is sign yours. My advice? Don't fight it. A small, sad smile touched her lips. You'll only lose more. Then she turned around, and she walked away. She didn't run. She didn't stumble. She walked across that beach with her head held high, past the silent, staring guests, past the friend in the bright shirt who couldn't meet her eyes, past the shattered champagne glass glittering in the sand. Behind her, she could hear Daniel calling her name, his voice cracking, growing more desperate, then more distant, until the sound of the waves swallowed it whole. She did not look back, not even once. That night, Maya did not stay in the resort. She got in her car and she drove, not toward home, not yet, but to a quiet stretch of shore, a few miles down the coast, where the beach was empty and the stars were spread across the sky, like scattered salt. She parked. She got out. She walked to the water's edge and let the cool waves wash over her bare feet. And there, finally, alone under the enormous sky, Maya let herself cry. But these were not the tears she had swallowed in the kitchen. These were not tears of heartbreak. They were something else. The tears you cry when a great weight lifts off your chest. When you finally set down a burden you didn't even know you'd been carrying for years. She cried for the girl who had married him full of hope. She cried for the wife who had tried so hard. And she cried, at last, out of sheer trembling relief. Because she was free. The months that followed were not easy. Divorce never is. But Maya faced each day the way she had walked across that beach, with her head held high. The court saw the evidence. There was too much of it to argue with. Daniel lost the apartment. He lost the hidden accounts. He was ordered to return every naira he had taken, and to support the children he had so carelessly gambled away. The respected surgeon, the man everyone had envied, became a cautionary tale whispered about at parties. His secret life, once so carefully hidden, was now the thing everyone knew. And Maya? Maya rebuilt. She went back to school, the career she had set aside years ago to raise their children. She moved into a smaller home, but a happier one. A home with no locked bags, and no secret passwords, and no cologne saved for lies. She filled it with laughter and light. She hung her children's drawings on the walls where family photos of Daniel used to be. And on a bright afternoon not long after, she sat in the front row of a small school hall, her phone raised, her heart bursting, as a little girl in a paper crown stepped onto the stage. Zara found her mother's face in the crowd. She smiled, and she said her lines perfectly, every single one. Afterward, Zara ran into her mother's arms. "Mummy, did you see me? Did I do good?" Maya held her daughter tight, breathing in the smell of her hair, feeling the small heart beating against her own. "You were perfect, my love," she whispered. "Absolutely perfect, and Mummy will never, ever miss a single one." And she never did. Because here is the thing about Maya. She thought for the longest time that her strength came from her husband, from his name, his money, his love. She thought that without him, she would be nothing. But on a beach at the edge of the world, holding a folder full of truth, she discovered something that would carry her for the rest of her life. She had never needed him to be strong. She had been strong all along. She just needed a reason to remember. Maya didn't lose a husband that night. She found herself. She found the woman who had been buried under 7 years of iron shirts and swallowed doubts and quiet fear. And that woman, calm, unbreakable, free, was worth more than any life he could have given her. Sometimes the person who betrays you thinks they are taking everything from you, but sometimes they are simply setting you free. So let me ask you something, wherever you are watching from right now. If you were in Maya's shoes, if you discovered that the person you trusted most in the world had been living a secret life behind your back, would you have found the strength to walk into that lodge the way she did, or would you have crumbled? Do you believe Maya did the right thing by facing him calmly, in the light, instead of screaming, or would you have handled it differently? And the biggest question of all, do you think some betrayals, as painful as they are, can actually become the very thing that sets us free? Tell me in the comments below, and let me know what city and what country you're watching from. I read every single one. If Maya's story moved you, give this video a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe, because the next story I have for you will break your heart and put it back together all over again. Thank you for watching, and never forget, your strength was never in someone else's hands. It was in yours all along.